Well, there's no doubt we need stronger antitrust enforcement. We shouldn't allow Amazon to privilege its own products on its platform, and we should make sure they're not using sellers' data. But the EU is not a model for America to copy. I mean, EU has been a disaster when it comes to tech innovation. They don't have a Apple or a Facebook or an Amazon. Their biggest success has been Spotify or SAP. So I don't think America needs to take any lessons from what Europe is doing.
That's a good point. Look at the wireless industry, too, actually. It's a separate conversation, but they overregulated that, and you can't make any money at all. But specific to what we're seeing here and the expectations you have on the antitrust front, with our own Department of Justice and FTC sort of splitting up Amazon and Google and Facebook and Apple, do you have expectations those investigations are going to lead anywhere?
I think they need to be done in a way that is thoughtful and nuanced, and there should be some enforcement. For example, I think we need to be far more scrutiny placed on future mergers. We should not have companies be allowed to make horizontal mergers. Second, we should make sure companies aren't privileging their own platforms and advantaging their own platforms at the expense of competitors. But what I oppose is just a reflexive call to break up companies or a call to fine companies without going through the due diligence of a process and looking at our law, which is about consumer welfare. I mean, Europe's law is about protecting competitors. Ours is all about consumers.
Congressman, we've seen some legislation introduced in Congress to regulate big tech. Are any of the proposed bills ones that you would support? What is the right way to basically govern this sector, this industry?
Well, we definitely need strong privacy protection. Speaker Pelosi asked me to draft the Internet Bill of Rights. There are 10 provisions. I'm not going to go through all 10, but let me tell you two of the main ones. We should have companies required to get the consent of individuals before collecting their data. And we should have, as individuals, the right to know what's happening to our data and whether it's being transferred. I think that's something that could get bipartisan consensus. And even these companies have said we need better, well-regulated calls on privacy and more regulation.
Congressman, I just want to shift gears here for a moment. You're on the House Armed Services Committee. The House just a couple days ago passed its version of the fiscal 2020 defense bill. In terms of tech, Huawei's been swept up in the trade talk between the U.S. and China. But from a legislative standpoint, is it going away as a national security threat?
I don't think it's going away. I mean, the challenge for us is, as you know, Huawei produces most of the 5G technology, and Nokia and Ericsson are not American companies. So I do believe we need to do more in the United States to make sure that we are prepared to have 5G in this country. And we need to make sure that we're doing more in developing artificial intelligence and developing artificial intelligence that can be used from our military. I mean, in China, they can use all of the companies for their national security. Fortunately, in our country, we don't have the government just appropriate the private sector, but that does put a greater burden on us to develop some of the cutting-edge technology.
Finally, Congressman, were you surprised at all at the level of both skepticism and perhaps even cynicism that Facebook's David Marcus was met with during the testimony in front of both your colleagues today and in the Senate yesterday?
I was not, especially in light of the Cambridge Analytica scandal and the understandable need for Facebook to build more trust. But I do think that we need less political sloganeering, less grandstanding. I mean, here's the reality. Facebook is developing Libra overseas in Europe because we don't have regulatory certainty or clarity in our country. And we need to make sure we don't lose out to China when it comes to cryptocurrencies. We also need to understand that it's not just Facebook. There's Bitcoin, there's Ripple. So my hope is that instead of just scoring points for the cameras, Congress can come up with a sensible regulatory framework for cryptocurrency, making sure there's not money laundering or terrorist activity, but understanding that it does facilitate payment transactions. It may challenge the Wall Street oligopoly and help reduce actually finance costs.